Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is February 1st, 2024, and we are staring at charts yet again. We are taking a look at the daily, and because it is the first and we just had a monthly close, we will also look at the monthly. Right now, we're looking at our typical live streaming chart, which has just got some bands on it, no support and resistance. We can see that Bitcoin did get a nice bounce off of the basis band here in yesterday's price action, and it closed above the upper first standard deviation. If price can remain above the upper first, which is coming in at roughly $43,000, I would target the highs of this move somewhere around 43.8 to 44K by the upper second here. If it does get above the upper second, which is at 44,134 right now, that's right up against the closing highs right here of this tighter range, then I would start to target this close open up here around $45,000. And above there, the next area to look at would be the wick high there at around 46. And then above, we're looking at 47 and possibly the highs again at 49 to 50K. Now, if Bitcoin does break down below the basis here and dip below this swing low from yesterday, right at a weekly level that we'll take a look at in a moment, around 41,850, then I would start to target the lower first here around 40,006 to 700. Below there, right back to the closing low area, right around 39.5. And of course, below there, we start targeting that wick low area at the monthly at 38.5, possibly more if it breaks down and gets closes below the lower second. Now, Bitcoin did get a nice contraction of the Bollinger Bands here, but it's kind of showing a bit of a range right now. So if Bitcoin were to trade into the upper second, upper third zone, that upper third zone coming in the low $45,000 region, and the lower second and lower third zone coming in around that 39.5 to 38.3 to 4, just by the low here at 38.5. The deviation low in this case. I would be looking for things to the upside, get short-term time frame rejections at minimum, short-term time frame rejections below the daily, and the same goes for the low side of this deviation here. In the short-term time frames, probably see some possible areas of interest for lower-term time frame reversals back to the upside. And then we come back to it later. So if we do start seeing above the upper second into the upper second, third zone, we look for those short-term time frame rejections in and around those areas and or see how high price would go. And then we start setting the criteria for further high or low price action. In this case, we can see that there is a swing high structure and a swing low structure set here. Now the swing low was set after yesterday's close because it closed above the prior day's open. That was at 42,937, with yesterday's close coming in at 43,078 bucks. So if we are going to see continuation, I do need to see another daily close at minimum above 43,300 here at the local closing high to look for continuation to the wicks around that 43 to 44K and beyond. And then, of course, anything that takes out the swing low here, could it hang on and or just swing it in the lower term time frame? Sure. But in general, I would be looking down, somewhere to 41,000 to mid $40,000 range by the lower first at minimum. And then possibly that could open up the door for the run of the lows there. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Stoke here. This is a Stoke. Well, it's two Stokes. One of these is a paid, one is free. The paid Stoke is the advanced Stoke from KVDB over there at app.crowntrading.net. You don't have to get a paid Stoke. There is free Stokes that you can get, like this one here. And I don't have any affiliation with Crown over there. I just like supporting their developers. I think they do great work, and some of them have helped me by allowing me access to their code, like BWP. Caretaker's been very generous there, allowing me to pilfer some of his code to use in my free indicator, which you can find in the video link description down below. Now the momentum pivot for the daily is currently at 42,300, we'll call it. It's 42,278, roughly 42,2 to 42,3. If Bitcoin's price does dip back below 43 into the mid 42 range, you're likely to see this somewhere around that 44.2 number. So if that area is dropped, we would get an initial cross back down. An initial cross is not a full cross. Of course, if it closed substantially below there, it could become one, so it would be something to watch. Otherwise, Bitcoin tends to have its biggest moves to the upside and downside once it has entered, to the downside, the oversold zone, to the upside, the overbought zone. So this is typically on a regular Stoch, not a Stoch RSI. So this is a regular Stoch reading close over close price action. We typically see those bigger moves come in the extreme zone, extreme reads. So be aware of that. I would say that when looking at the band setup, I would still, be roughly targeting somewhere around the upper second, upper third if we did see a breakout of the local swing high there in the deeper $43,000 region, 44K or so. And of course, if things fall apart, that's obviously going to reverse and we'd see Stoch heading down. We likely see Bitcoin going back to retest the range lows and the deviation lows, stuff like that. When looking at the monthly here, we did see that Bitcoin got a close above the upper second standard deviation, and you may notice that the upper second standard deviation is now above price action. So for Bitcoin to continue to get more aggressive upside expansion of the Bollinger Bands, we need to see it maintain above the upper second and upper first standard deviation. Now, the upper first standard deviation is coming in at 36,170, so about 36.2. And we had talked about this in the live streams prior and in the previous staring at charts video. And this is the big area that, I've talked about, now that it's moved up to a weekly level. Let's go ahead and reference support and resistance real quick. So this is the chart that's typically shown on the Bitcoin in 60 seconds shorts videos here on YouTube under the shorts tab, and on my X, formerly Twitter account there at CryptoLandy. We can see the Bollinger Band set with longer term time frame support and resistance. In this case, the 36,200 level is this weekly down here. So if we did see the lows taken out on a close below that monthly at 38.5, which again, support and resistance trend, and then support and resistance really going to be king when combined with volatility and momentum there, as trend, support and resistance, and volatility are what create trend. In this case, if we were to see Bitcoin below, trading and closing candles below 38.5, not only would it be a technical breakdown of support and resistance, it would be nullifying this bear trend break, because we do currently have a break of trend. So we had the downtrend here, and we currently have a break of trend with the possibility of setting, well, we've already seen the swing low set, just need to see a closing low set back above 43.3, then we would have a bit of a trend reversal on our hands. Still would want to see another higher high, higher low structure build for maintaining an uptrend. But in this case, if we did see this area taken out, you can see there's weeklies down here at 37.7 and then a weekly at 36.2, just above the area that the monthly basis was in, which was it's currently at this 36.2 weekly. But last month in January, it was around the $35,000 monthly and weekly at 34,750. So just to kind of get an idea of support and resistance as it relates to the basis band, which is the 20 simple. So basis band on Bollinger Bands is typically going to be the 20 simple. You can edit this in the indicator. It's not standard, though, to do so. I would suggest just leaving it on default where the basis is the 20 simple moving average. In this case, every prior time that Bitcoin has ran the first bear market lower high Nope, that's CME. Don't want that right now. I've pointed this out many, many times during the live streams, but we're seeing the same thing over and over again. So history tends to rhyme, not necessarily repeat, but first bear market, lower high on a close usually gets ran either just after monthly Bollinger Band expansion or just prior to monthly Bollinger Band expansion. In 14, we had the bear market lower high confirmed. That was on a close, not the swing, but on a close. And in this case, we had this swung, and in 2016 came back down to the upper first before proceeding on with the rest of the bull market there. We can also see back in 2019, this was the first real bear market closing lower high. We saw it come down and confirm that major low from 2018, confirm that as a macro low by putting in a major low in 2020. And then what did we see? Just prior to expansion of the Bollinger Bands, we did have an upward slope, but it was just prior to actually getting the expansion or kicking off the expansion phase here that the bear market lower high was swung right here. And that was on a close. It didn't quite swing the wick. It doesn't really matter as long as the close is swung. And then it came back down to where? The upper first standard deviation before proceeding on with the rest of the bull market. And what do we see here? Well, we're getting all of the same signs or all of the same criteria kind of getting checked off. We see the bear market lower high on a close from 2022. They're at 48,240 with the close coming in at roughly 45.5 at that monthly. This has been swung. It was swung in January. And, it would not be out of character for Bitcoin to come back down and test around or even through the upper first standard deviation on the monthly. And you do want to note how this lines up with horizontal support and resistance. So it is right there at that weekly at 36.2, which was, found as decent resistance when Bitcoin did come up to retest it in that monthly, the monthly zone here at and weekly at 34,750 to 35K was tested as resistance, found as support, came right up into the weekly there at 36.2 to 37.7, came back down for a retest of the weekly at 34,750 before hanging out in this weekly zone between 36.2 and 37.7, testing up to that monthly at 38.5, and then subsequently the weekly at 39K before moving on to test the monthlies overhead and weekly zones up here as well. So this weekly zone at 41.8 to 43.2, and then the monthly at 45.5 being tested, a little bit of a front run here at 45K and then tested at 45.5. The next monthly here thoroughly tested on swings and closes there at $47,000 before swinging that bear market wick high there at around 48,240. So as long as the close gets swung, it still meets criteria. In this case, the close and the swing high there at 48,240 got swung. So big zone at 45.5, that being the closing bear market lower high from 2022. And something to keep an eye on, to the downside is that big weekly zone below. Now, Bitcoin in some of the lower term timeframes below the monthly is going to be pretty interesting to look at as well. So we do have the weekly here attempting to solidify this swing low this week if it can trade and close above basically the upper first standard deviation there at around 43,300, 2 to 300 in this case. Upper first on the weekly is coming in right here, just around this wick high. It's actually a little bit higher, to be fair. It's at 43,569. We do need to see that area ran and closed above, and then we would see this swing low on the weekly solidified, and then we would just need to see a follow-up weekly close if this weekly didn't do this, but we need to see the next weekly and or this weekly close above around $44,000 to solidify a closing low. And of course, that would be above the current upper first standard deviation. And that would open up, the wick highs around, 45, 45, 5, 46, and then all the way up to the actual highs here by the upper second at $49,000, maybe even a swing for 50. If it starts to get anywhere above there, looking, mid to low $50,000 region, there is horizontal support and resistance up there. In this case, approaching it from the bottom side, of course, it would be seen as resistance initially until flipped. The 5-day, not too much to be gleaned here. Bitcoin is rejecting that upper first standard deviation, but a nice bounce off of the basis band here. And I would be, from here, it kind of already, solidified the swing and close. So, if it starts to trade above the upper first there at roughly 44K, that would be additional confirmation coming into the end of the week here for the 5-day. When looking at the 4-day, which just opened, we can see that Bitcoin has now, did it get it? Well, it definitely confirmed the swing low there by the lower first standard deviation. Beautiful tap on it, by the way. And let's see, this open was at 43,130, and this close here was at 43,230. So about $100 higher on this prior 4-day closure. So we do have a swing low and a closing low confirmed now, with generally the upside target being the upper first to begin with, and that's coming in a little bit higher than 44K at around 44.5. And we can see a nice compression here of the Bollinger Bands, low BBWP. So if we did start to see it closing above 44.5 and pushing that upper second standard deviation around 46.5 to 47K, well, then we're probably looking at upside expansion, especially if we do see closes above the upper second that then go and subsequently close, and this is very specific, needs to close above that wick high at 44K or 49K, sorry. So we would need to see a close above the upper second at around 46.5, followed by, if it didn't already do it in the same candle, followed by a close above the wick high there at 49K, which would kick off aggressive expansion to the upside. We can see that, the 4-day does have the possibility of turning its stochastic momentum oscillator back to the upside, getting a bounce off of, roughly the edge of the bearish control zone here on any closures above $44,000. If we were to move this over to the 3-day, we can see that Bitcoin is, closed this prior 3-day and solidified the swing low and closing low, but it still needs to close above this wick high here at that 43,569. Take out that upper first. Nice compression if it were to do so. There at 44K, the upper second is coming in above the highs of this smaller consolidation or tighter consolidation prior to the deviations to the upside and downside. And that's coming in at 45,250. So above there, the closing highs at 46,000 are fair game to the actual wick highs at 49,000. Of course, on the other side of this, any closes below the lower first at 41,340, I'd be looking right back down to the deviation low there again at the lower second at $40,000 if it dropped that area and then subsequently met the criteria for taking out that wick low at the monthly at 38.5. Then we're looking for this structure to get tested down here with confirmation of expansion, because if it tested below there and started to close below that wick low, we would see downside expansion. In this case, we do have volatility picking up as Bitcoin comes off of that lower second standard deviation, reclaims the basis, and comes back to the upper first. But until we see closes above the upper first and then subsequently above the upper second, we are not looking at Bollinger Band expansion. We're just looking at volatility within the Bollinger Band set. Now, this is something to pay attention to in today's candle, because this 3-day is going to close today. Excuse me while I adjust in my chair here. 40,330. Yeah, 40,330 is going to be the momentum pivot. If we do see Bitcoin close above there, we would get a full shift of Stoke momentum. And we would also probably be needing to be, I should say, on the lookout for this bullish divergence to get another signal. So this bullish divergence off of the deviation at the monthly at 38.5, it's already confirmed, right? So we've seen the easy part of this hidden bull div play out. And if we do see RSI crossing above the SMA here, then I would be looking for continuation at minimum to the edge of the bullish control zone for the 3-day. Now the SMA is currently coming in at 43,895, so right around our highs there at around 43.9, 44K. So if we see that area taken out, I would be looking at minimum for a move to the bullish control zone somewhere around the mid $44,000 region. Currently it's at 44,600 and possibly more, up to the area at 45 to 45.5 at the monthly. So this is going to be important to watch how Bitcoin closes this daily and 3-day. Of course, we did just open a 2-day candle as well. And we can see that the 2-day candle that just closed is a bit of a doji. It did take out, let's see, what is the 2-day close up here? 43,140. Yes, so it did confirm. We already had confirmation of a swing low off the lower second standard deviation on the 25th of January here and a closing low. So we've already seen the easy part of this move play out back to the basis band. The next move to the upside, of course, would be taking out that 43.9 to 44K and testing the upper first. You can see that the Bollinger Bands are set up in a range at the moment. So any closes above the upper first at 44, 675 in this case, well, that's right around the bullish control zone for the 3-day. I would be aware of this, initial rejections around the upper second, upper third, just like the daily. Upper second is now right around the highs there at 46 and a half. So there we've got some more confirmation with some of the things that we just looked at. If we did start to see closures above there, 45.5 to the wick highs there again at 49K to 50K or so. If we start to see the basis lost on a 2-day close, right back to the lower first is where I would be looking, and that again is coming in at 41K. Below there, I would be looking right back to the deviation lows here on a close at around 39.5 to low $39,000 region. Below there, just pay attention to that wick low. If it breaks down, then we're looking at expansion of the Bollinger Bands into the support structures down below at those weeklies at 37.7 to 36.2, where the monthly basis band is. So, things are looking good for Bitcoin to at least give an attempt higher in this range, and it maybe even test the deviation higher. But keep in mind that it's going to be all about setting this daily structure. Right now, the potential for this swing low to turn into something more is there, right? And you can see this pretty clearly on a swing chart. We had the downtrend broken. We had the low set here. Now we've got the swing higher high and swing higher low. So the next big thing would be to confirm a closing higher low and then move on through the bands here, especially getting back above that upper second. That would do it to at least test up further within the local range, possibly that deviation high up there and more. I think that is going to do it today, unless maybe we'll check out open interest real quick here. So is open interest rising? Yes. So open interest has been in a bit of a downtrend while Bitcoin is trying to change its structure here on the hourly. It's, currently hasn't completed any sort of a trend shift just yet. It's still in swing low territory. It needs to confirm, it's got higher low, higher high as it compares to the other swings here. It needs to solidify this swing low as a closing low and then move on. And then you've got, a bit of a structure here on open interest where it's likely going to come up above that 11 billion. And you want to see that. You want to see it supported by open interest as well. When looking at the taker buy sell ratio, let's see where it's at. Let's move over just a bit here. It is, in the shorter term time frames at a 1.07, I wouldn't be surprised to see a smaller pullback here, but it's not critical just yet. If we were to see a pullback and then this goes further up, that would be a possible counter signal. Now, of course, I'm only monitoring this intraday, all right, not for the daily, but intraday, because it will shift around. So you can monitor this particular chart here on Crypto Quant. It's just the taker buy sell ratio metric. Above like 1.1 to 1.4, that's critical. Below an 0.88, it's critical in the other direction, and you can monitor this in real time. So it can give you kind of the bias that maybe shorter term timeframes like the 15-minute hourly are running out of steam or getting to critical levels. So you can see that it's just hanging out right now. But if it was to really push up and we see the taker buy sell ratio really rocket up through the 1.1, 1.4 area, sometimes you can see it intra candle, meaning the daily, because it's measuring the daily, getting all the way up into like the 1.5 and 1.6. That would be extremely critical reads and indicative of a shorter term time frame pullback or resistance. Same goes for the downside. If it starts to get below the 8.8 or in and around the 8.8 in those lower term time frames, probably looking for that to at least take a little bit of a cooling off. And in this case, buyers coming back into the downside, sellers coming in on the upside move. All right, that is going to do it for today. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. I will have a shorter live stream tomorrow, Friday, the 2nd, for you as well. And with all of that being said, take care. Landy out.